We are now at the halfway point for the legislative session for spring of 2026. This is Legislative Chair Troy Swanson for Cook County College Teachers Union, and I wanted to send along a quick update on where our priority legislation is at this time. The reality for Illinois is that our expenses are outpacing the revenue that is coming in. Legislators know this, the governor knows this, and there are a lot of conversations happening about how we can rethink the revenue structure in Illinois. For community colleges, if we just take our funding for where we were in the year 2003, so over 20 years ago, and we just kept that money up with inflation, not increasing it, just keep it even with inflation, the state of Illinois would have to pay our colleges an additional 23% from what they pay right now. So what does that mean? We are 23% underfunded from where we were, so our tuition is going up or our services are getting cut. And that's the reality that we're seeing across higher education. So we need to think about ways to do better for revenue if we are going to keep services healthy into the future. This is true for our colleges and all of the services that Illinois offers. And we can see this revenue challenge play out in several ways for our colleges and for our members. Number one is that our efforts to improve Tier 2 pension benefits have stalled out. And they've stalled out basically because there cannot be an agreement on where funding can come from. And so there isn't the political will from the governor or from leaders in the House and the Senate to move this legislation forward. So Tier 2 remains a substandard retirement benefit. It remains below where the Tier 1 benefits are. And we are still fighting. We are still working with our coalition partners to try to move this legislation forward. But it is hitting a wall. And that wall is just the fact that everyone is worried about where funding is going to come from. And so that is why we're pushing so hard on progressive revenue and trying to move this funding issue forward so that we can see things like Tier 2 advance. Another piece of legislation that's tied indirectly to this funding issue. This is the community college baccalaureate degree discussion. And so this would follow efforts in other states to allow community colleges to give bachelor's degrees in selected programs and areas, mostly workforce areas. So think of like early childhood or nursing or some cybersecurity programs. This has been tied to the university funding. So the universities are saying, hey, you want to offer bachelor's degrees, which is what we do, then the state of Illinois needs to do better at funding us. So they have been blocking indirectly this legislation in an effort to improve their legislation, which is complicated for us and makes it a whole big picture. But again, it's tied to the fact that there's not enough funding to go around, and everybody is trying to elbow their way in. We are hopeful that this legislation will move forward. We're hearing some good things about conversations that are happening, but I'm not entirely sure what is going to happen this session with this bill, but the fight continues for sure. Another funding issue is the state of the college insurance program. Now, SIP is a program for all the community colleges in Illinois except for the city colleges. So sorry, city college folks, but this is for us, it's the suburban colleges and then the rest of Illinois. But this is a program that covers retirees that leave their colleges prior to being Social Security age. And it has been drastically underfunded over the past decade or so, to the point where it's taking our retirees roughly 18 months to get their medical bills paid, which of course hurts their credit and causes all kinds of issues. So we are putting pressure. There is an effort to slowly ramp up support for this program to make sure it stays healthy, and we are part of that push. All of us know that artificial intelligence and the impact of large language models is being discussed and felt in our colleges and across our economy. This piece of legislation is really important and unique. We are working with AFSCME and IFT and other public sector unions to establish the idea that all major functions of government within the agency level, within education, within municipalities, all of them need to have meaningful human control. So this is sort of a way to ensure that we keep people with their hands on the wheel and that we're not turning over key jobs to automated systems. It's a stance that we are trying to push forward and saying that, hey, our values matter, and that keeping people with their ideas in government is a key thing to making government function. And so this is legislation that would be groundbreaking, that we are pushing to try to make sure gets across the finish line. Currently, in Illinois, any hospital employee can be trained to be a surgical assistant in the operating room. So if you are the electrician or you're a secretary at a desk, you can be brought in and trained, and then you could be assisting in the OR. We think this is a problem, especially given that many of our colleges, so Malcolm X, Triton, Prairie State, Oakton, they all have programs, Harper too, by the way, not to forget people. They have programs that are accredited and train people to be surgical technicians that ensure safety, that know the procedures, that are part of a profession that do the job well. And so that's why this is called the Operating Room Patient Safety Act. This legislation would mandate accredited degrees for the people that are assisting in operating rooms. For us, we have these programs. This is a no-brainer for us to support. Our main opposition on this are the hospitals in Illinois. They are pushing back on this, and we are working to try to get this across the finish line. We have had committee hearings trying to build consensus that safety sort of matters and accredited degrees matter if you are on the operating room table. We are also part of a coalition of groups looking to support open educational resources in Illinois. This would be in the state budget. It would put a $3 million grant in the hands of the state library to allow across higher education, so not just community colleges, but it would allow faculty members to build their own resources, so textbook replacements, sometimes online course modules that would replace textbooks free of charge for students. This is a program that has existed and the funding has ran out, and we want to see this continue. It makes a big difference in terms of equity and access in supporting our students, and many of our campuses already do their own grants for OER. This would make it more formal at the state level and help make shared resources that all of us can benefit from in classrooms across Illinois. And so this, again, was a logical step for us to support and help move forward. Illinois statute mentions academic freedom, but it currently does not define academic freedom or put it into operation. That happens at the college level, at all levels of higher ed. So if you are on the tenure track and you have a union, you have some of the greatest protections in anywhere really in the whole United States. But if you are an adjunct faculty member, if you're a lecturer at a university, if you work at a private school, you have in many ways some of the weakest protections for academic freedom. So this legislation, we are working with the Illinois chapter of the AAUP to put into place some levels of protection. It's not perfect, but it's a first step to have some levels of protection saying in Illinois, academic freedom, freedom of thought, freedom to explore research where it goes, freedom in the classroom. These are things that matter to us as a state, and these are things that are at the foundation of higher education. And so this legislation has been in committee. We are hoping to see it get through. It's seeming positive, but you never know until you get to the end. We may be asking members to put in witness slips and call legislators about this legislation. No surprise to any of us that the cannabis industry has exploded over the last 6 years. This includes several programs on our campuses, different kinds of programs. One item is a program that would allow colleges to grow cannabis. Right now, that program has not actually been put in place because of federal law, and there's some work at the federal level being done to try to change that. So many of our campuses grow tomatoes, or they grow basil, or they grow other things to help students who want to enter this industry. But there's a pilot program that would let colleges grow cannabis, but it expires in July of 2026. So the irony is, this is a program that's never actually been utilized in the 6 years that this law has been in place. And so we would like to see the date of this pushed down the road so that when federal legislation changes, we are able to utilize this and put it into place. So this is just a kind of administrative, kind of bureaucratic update to the law to help us keep this alive and moving forward. We're hoping that this is something that gets deleted and fixed, and we can get this across the line also. These are some of the key pieces of legislation that we're working on. There's other things that will probably pop up along the way. We're always working with IFT and other partners to try to move legislation forward. I just have to emphasize, right? Like the reason that we have political outreach, the reason that we build with COPE and that we are politically active is to impact and have a voice on legislation. Without COPE, without our members donating, without our political activity, we do not have influence over the laws that influence us. We are greatly impacted by the things that happen in Springfield, and we need to be in the game and pushing this forward. So always talk to your chapter chairs about joining COPE and making that happen. Thank you for your work. Keep an eye out for updates, and we will be asking you to reach out to legislators as the session moves forward.